interesting topic today. Today I will be answering uncomfortable questions about being a seven-figure female CEO. I think this is going to be really interesting. The questions are provided by the community, so I decided to pick only 5 questions that I think matter a lot. There were quite a few questions, but for me these 5 questions are the most important questions simply because they are really focused on the experience of being a female owner, and I've personally experienced these feelings, so I want to share them with you because everybody thinks that it is absolutely amazing and great to build super successful businesses, but the reality is that businesses like that, it is pretty much about also the person who is behind the business. So that is also really, really important. So I have 5 questions for you today that we've gathered. And if you see me looking at a couple of directions, this is because I am currently live on a few platforms. We're also recording for YouTube. As you can see, multitasking at its finest. So let's dive into the first question that the community asked. So the first question that the community asked is, do you ever feel guilty about making more money than most people? And there's a reason why I chose this question. I chose this question not so much for me. I chose this question because guilt is an extremely important emotion when it comes to women. So women, unfortunately, have been programmed to feel guilt around a lot of things, and money is one of the main things that females feel a lot of guilt and shame around. They feel guilty to ask for more money, they feel guilty to make more money, they feel guilt to even say that they want more money because they are ashamed or scared not to get judged and categorized as a gold digger or something like that. When I was doing my research for my book, The Future of Business is Female, guilt came as one of the number one emotions that women feel around money. So no wonder why we are seeing that female-led businesses could struggle making more money, and they also struggle when they are fundraising just because they don't want to come across as too aggressive or in a negative way when they want more money. So that's why I want to emphasize on this question and the feeling of guilt as a multiple 7-figure earner. And for me personally, I've never felt guilty about that. However, the emotion that I felt is being concerned how I will be perceived when I speak about money. And 3 years ago, I was actually concerned how would people perceive me if I speak about money. And I found out that no matter how positive I could be, no matter my intention to speak about money, and if you've been just for 3 seconds in my world, if you don't know my work, for me, financial freedom for women is the most important thing. I think if we want to help women, if we want to elevate society, it is extremely important that we have women who make more money and have successful businesses globally. So we're not just speaking about the West, we're speaking about so many disadvantaged countries where we are seeing that female leadership and female entrepreneurship is really changing the economies of these countries. And so I want to share with you that as a woman who is striving to make more money, you will be criticized. Society is still praising men who make a lot of money. Society is still saying if you're a dude, if you're making a lot of money, then that is absolutely amazing. You're the man, you're the boss. But if you're a woman who wants that, what is wrong with you? And so what I want to share is that money in the hands of conscious women, and in fact I had a podcast that was named like that, but now we transformed the name to just woman. Money really amplifies who you are. And so for me, for example, there was no guilt that I was making more money just because I'm extremely giving and my closest friends and family know that. and strangers as well. I tip all the time. In fact, when we go outside, I'm the first to tip the most. I'm always the kind of a person who will take care of everybody. I'm very happy to be giving. I've given so much free coaching to people, and in fact, these sessions that are happening now for free are because I'm in a financial situation where I can do that, right? So no guilt, just inspiration, and also teaching women not to feel guilty about being financially free and making a lot of money. But I feel that we need to consciously work on that, because a lot of women are still really, really challenged when it comes to claiming that they want money. So for example, I've worked with a lot of men, and unlike women, men just want money, and it's perfectly fine. You will see in incubators, in startups, in networking events, men just say, I just want to make a lot of money, and it's perfectly fine. And when you hear a woman saying she wants to make a lot of money, she starts justifying why she wants to make a lot of money, where we don't see that with a man. Men just say, well, we just want to make a lot of money with the business. And people expect that. But when a woman says that, they expect that she will have some altruistic desire to do that, which is fine. Absolutely, yes, you should have a purpose, you should have a bigger impact, but also you shouldn't be ashamed to say you want to make more money. Question number 2, do people treat you differently when they find out how much you make? So yes, the short question is yes, and it's really interesting when I am attending events or when I'm at a networking events. You can really see that. And often, we do a lot of things to do social status signaling. So we wear certain jewelry of certain brands, certain shoes, certain watches, certain bags, which in a way tell people where you are financially. I'm not a big fan of that, so I don't like flashing materialistic things to kind of like showcase my financial status. But I do like when we are having a conversation to emphasize that I'm running a couple of really successful companies, and especially when I'm surrounded by men, because with women, I feel this is my personal experience. I've heard other stories, but around women, I feel that energetically we kind of feel each other. And with men, sometimes, especially when you're really young as an entrepreneur, a young female entrepreneur, you do want to establish this early on so that you are perceived in a different way. And yes, people react in different ways. So I have people that celebrate me, I have people who are jealous, I have people who are insecure, I have people who pretend that they're very happy but they're not that happy, and I have people who purely when they find out, they try to take advantage of me as well, which is not something that I am very happy about, but it happens. So yes, definitely. So what I will suggest here with you and your experience is not to be ashamed to tell people openly that you are striving in business, that you're successful, that you are a woman who has achieved a lot. Of course, if it comes from a space of introduction and you just sharing the truth about who you are. If it comes across as an ego trip, that it's a totally different vibe, so people can feel that. But it's also important not to be the best kept secret in the world. I've actually met quite a lot of people who would remain completely silent and they will not share much about themselves, and that acts as a negative simply because I don't know who this person is. I don't know what they have achieved. We have such a short period of time to introduce each other. And then later on, if I want to make an introduction or connect someone, because I do love doing that, I don't really know that about the other person. So I coach all of my clients to be free to talk about their achievements and to also share it openly, share it as if they're sharing it to a friend, make it very natural, and then that actually works really well. Question number 3, do you feel lonely at the top? And so I again intentionally chose that question simply because I think this morning when I was reading some of my favorite social media outlets, I think the Business Insider had an article that they recently did a research that millionaires are saying that they feel way lonelier. I personally don't have this experience. My surrounding changed way before I managed to bring in the money that I brought into my business. So I completely reshifted my social environment years before I even created these companies. And I think that was actually one of the reasons I became successful, just because I curated my circle and the people around me. And so there was a point where I was actually in a space where I decided I am completely changing my environment, who I'm meeting, who I'm spending my time with. Even with social media, I changed who I'm following, the pages that are on my page, what I'm reading, what kind of information I'm consuming. Am I even watching series? Like everything around me completely changed, including the people that I allow in my world. And to be honest with you, I feel much better. I don't personally feel lonelier. Is it lonely at the top? It is lonely in terms of the responsibility that you carry. So a lot of people cannot understand the responsibilities that I carry. I carry a lot of responsibility. So for example, even asking me to do something which for you seems like something really small and something that takes very little effort on your end, so you might be seeing it that way. For me, that might be actually quite a lot, and I can't do it just because I don't have the emotional and time capacity to do that. So people often don't understand that. So when people want me to do stuff, I have to think of, do I have the time to do that? Do I have the capacity to do that? And do I really want to do that? Because there are cases when I don't want to do that and I will not agree to doing things, and sometimes people don't understand that. And maybe sometimes it can get lonely at the top just because you are in your own bubble, especially if you are creating a business that also has impact. So if you're just printing money and that's it, and your business doesn't really have a huge impact or some kind of an impact in the world, then maybe it's slightly different. But when you're an inventor, when you are changing the status, when you are coming up with new ideas, when you are really making a difference, then it gets lonely because you're really in the space a lot of the time, because you're just thinking all the time. And often, for example, I will get people talking to me, and sometimes I will get an idea or I will get a download, and for a second I will switch off. And I apologize when that happens, but that's what happens with some of us. When we are way too creative, when we have too many ideas, when we want to make too many things happen, sometimes the world around us doesn't exist. It's more about what's happening here and here. So long story short, for me personally, it doesn't get lonely because I'm surrounded by amazing people. And by the way, my friends are not all of them in the same financial situation where I am. Some are making less, some are making more. So for me, what is really important is that I have good people around me. I have people that I know that if I message you, I will feel love from you. There wouldn't be any jealousy. There wouldn't be any comparison. There wouldn't be any judgment. So these are the kind of people that I surround myself with. And this is really important, by the way, when you're a business owner. It's good to have supportive people, not people who are people pleasing and they're just, telling you everything is great when it's not, but people who are supportive, people who are not judgmental, people who will be there and understand that your life is slightly different. Question number 5, are you afraid people will call you selfish, aggressive, or too masculine? Again, I chose this for a reason, just because there is a double standard for women, and this conversation is again specifically for 7-figure female CEOs. There is a double standard. As I started in the beginning, the double standard still continues, by the way, that men in business who are very, very successful and profitable, they are extremely well seen, and people are admiring them, people are clapping for them. We do see this for women, definitely, but we also see a lot of judgment. And research shows that if you go under any female politician or a super successful CEO, you will see people who are way more judgmental towards women, and women are being called way too aggressive or way too masculine for being business owners. And I want to challenge you, actually, everybody who's watching and listening, I want you to really challenge your perception of categorizing things as feminine and categorizing things as masculine. Okay? Because I think that the descriptions that we have are actually extremely primitive. So we can't say that being a leader and making a lot of money and being successful and being focused on your business is purely masculine. And if you're doing that, you're in your masculine, and then what is feminine? So we really need to rephrase these words. But I do think that we definitely should be striving to bring in more softness, more intuition, more care, more nurturing in business, more inclusivity. I think this is what we need to be looking for, and not judging women who are focused on their business and saying that they're masculine. For me, this is crazy. I think that we need to accept that if a woman wants to focus on business and do business, and for example, if she wants or doesn't want to have kids, it's none of your business. That's her business. So this is what I think. And personally, for me, I've heard this a couple of times, especially from insecure men. So secure men who are doing their thing, who are very confident, who are not full of some kind of trauma, they don't have a problem. Including investors, including CEOs, including people at higher positions. But if you have someone who is insecure, then you can see that. So for me personally, I don't care. I don't care who sees me, whatever they want to see me. I really, really don't care. What I care the most is that when I go to bed, every single night, I know that I've done the best that I can humanly do. I know that I've supported my clients the best that I humanly can support them. I know that I've supported my teams the best that I humanly can, that I've been there for my family, that I've been a good person, and that I've been a good person to myself. This is the most important. The rest, it's up to you. This is your perception of me. If this is what you think, perfect. Good luck with that. I will continue doing whatever I want to do. And by the way, this kind of mindset is extremely important if you really want to be very successful. If you want to be a millionaire, if you want to be a gajillionaire, whatever you want to be, but if you want to be a super successful business owner, you need to have that kind of a mindset, especially if you are a woman, because trust me, you will be judged, you will be criticized. And most of the time, it will be by people who are less successful than you are. And here's the thing, a lot of people who judge and criticize are also people who have not had these experiences. Because people who have had these experiences, they know how tough this is. So they will not judge and criticize you. Maybe they will give you some positive feedback, but they will definitely not judge and not criticize. Okay, so the final question is, how do you handle hate, jealousy, and criticism, which is pretty much what I just shared with you. And I want to be very honest with you. When I first started with my businesses a couple of years ago, like a decade ago, I was mostly feeling really, really challenged when it was hate and jealousy coming from my closest people, the closest environment that I will have, or it was coming from inside of the team. This is the worst. So for me, I don't really care if there's going to be judgment or criticism coming from an outsider, but if it's coming from my co-founder, if it's coming from my team, if it's coming from a client, this for me is really something to look into, because this can affect the business. So if you're the kind of a woman who is affected by hate on social media, you will get the hate. Just deal with it. I just say that you have to buy yourself a helmet, grow thick skin, be mindful of your heart. You know, everybody says, have an open heart. Have an open heart for the people who deserve to have an open heart. So have discernment. Know when you allow people in and when you don't allow people in. So this is really, really super important for you if you are the kind of a woman who internalizes everything. And I know it's hard. I've had so many client situations where my clients will be attacked brutally on social media. In fact, I had a couple of situations when I literally had to be online in the middle of the night when my client was going through the most awful experience ever online. And here's the thing, if you are an honest person, if you are full of integrity, it's going to be okay. You are going to have haters, you're going to have people who will judge you, you're going to have people who will talk behind your back. It's okay. You are going to face jealousy. In fact, one of my businesses is in the coaching industry, and I think that this is one of the most jealous industries out there. I see it almost every single day, how people show up in the real life, how they talk to people and how they talk behind their backs. This is crazy. In fact, very recently, a few days ago, I experienced someone who in front of me was super nice, super loving, super love bombing and everything. And then I found out something that she was actually not like that behind my back. So this happens all the time. It's going to happen. Have discernment. Don't be oversharing. Don't be over trusting. Learn to be a smart businesswoman. You just have to do that. And then criticism, as I said, it's just a normal part. And what I would love to add here and wrap up with this is that not all criticism is bad criticism. There's also good criticism. So for example, if you receive criticism from a team member, a co-founder, a client, and if that criticism is effective, so what does it mean? They tell you that something is not okay, but they also tell you why. How can you improve it? They're not just saying this sucks and you suck, but they're telling you what is the problem, how you can fix the problem, and all of that. And then take it, learn from it. So women in particular are a little bit, they internalize criticism. So most men don't internalize criticism. On the contrary, when they receive criticism, the psychology of men is that it's not my fault, it's everybody around me. A woman is, it is my fault, nobody likes me, I'm this and this and this and this. So instead of, she's not telling herself, I failed, she's telling herself, I am a failure. You don't want to do that to yourself. What you do want to do is detach yourself from your business, detach yourself from what you're doing, your career, or anything that has to do with your work, and be really objective. If you really need to improve, be open. I also find it really funny when people say, oh, this wasn't an ideal client and that's why it didn't work. Well, maybe you didn't perform as good as you could have. And this is also where your client takes responsibility to give you feedback. This is really, really important. For example, last year, we worked with someone who was really bad with giving feedback. She will just say she's not happy with something, that it wasn't her thing, this is not me, this doesn't sound like me, without extra support, without extra feedback, without how we can improve things. So that kind of criticism doesn't work, and we actually had to stop working with her just because it wasn't effective. We were wasting time, she was wasting time, it doesn't make sense. That's it. But when you have a client who looks at what they are receiving and actually tells you how to improve that, this is gold. Keep people like that into your circle, because they will genuinely tell you what is the problem and how you can improve it. So these have been the top 5 questions that I think were very useful, and I think that you absolutely will find them useful to replicate them, even if you are not at 7 figures, and even if you've passed 7 figures, if you are into 8 figures. I think that these are things that they will continuously happen into your life. So I hope you love this, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you will implement